Welcome into the Jazz Notes podcast. I'm Ben Anderson.
I'm Chandler Holt.
We are recording this on December 8th. The Utah Jazz have lost 2 in a row, but before that, they had won 3 out of 4, so it kind of seemed like, this team's playing a little bit better. I think that will be a topic of conversation today. We'll get to the news of the day as well. No games to preview really before DJ and I do the show on Thursday, but we'll talk about what's coming up anyways. And then, of course, the week that was. Before getting to your mailbag, you can find us on social media at Ben's Hoops and C Holt Sports, generally Twitter or Blue Sky. That's how you can answer mail or request mailbag questions. I usually send out a prompt on Monday morning, but you can always DM me throughout the weekend. If I don't just respond to you, which I do a lot, I'll just give you your answer then. If I'm not doing anything, we will answer them on the podcast.
Yes. Straight into the week that was?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so as you mentioned, a 2-2 week for the Jazz. Started with a surprising win over the Rockets, 133-125. They lost to them the night before that on a back-to-back. Then followed that East Coast trip win over the Brooklyn Nets, 123-110. Then 2 losses in a row. First to the New York Knicks, 146-112, and then to the Thunder, 131-101. They were without Shea in that game, but both of the losses, it was basically a story of first quarter woes. Against the Knicks, 41-13, maybe the worst quarter of the season for the Jazz.
Was it 23-0 to start the game?
Yes.
23-0 was pretty shocking.
And then against the Thunder, it was not much better, 45-20 first quarter.
Yeah, they were down 10-1 at the first time out. Will Hardy seen yelling at his team on social media. It was 45-13 at one point, I think, or 43-15 at some point. Yeah, it was a disaster. And the Thunder were awesome. And the Knicks just absolutely laid it on the Jazz, who were on the second night of a back-to-back. I guess the upside, if you're a Jazz fan, is they did win their first back-to-back games of the season by getting a surprise win, and honestly, maybe their best win of the season over Houston.
Yep.
They beat Boston on the road, and that's actually been a better win. Boston's won 5 in a row, I think 9 of 10 or something. So that was not a bad win for the Jazz, certainly on the road in Boston, but then beating Houston at home. Second game of a back-to-back. Houston absolutely thought they were just going to roll into Utah and destroy them the way they did on Sunday. And they didn't have Steven Adams, so the Jazz found a way to win that game. And then, you were going to beat Brooklyn, even though they were down 9 at the end of the first, at the halftime, at the end of 3. The Jazz outscored them 42-20. But Brooklyn is really tanking, and the Jazz are only kind of dipping their toe in that spot, I think, so far. I don't think the Jazz are tanking. I do wonder if we are no longer seeing win-at-all-cost Utah Jazz basketball.
Nets are in the deep end. Jazz are in the kiddie pool right now.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, Jazz are, slowly warming up.
Yeah.
Slowly becoming a little bit more accustomed to it. But as we have seen, and I think maybe the takeaway here is the Jazz are going to be competitive at home in some games and probably going to win some games that you may not expect, but they should be right around 500 while they are trying to win games at home. Even against good teams, they should be able to get some victories. When they play teams, though, that are truly better than they are. And look, Houston even, I'd have to look, Houston had a weird loss last night or 2 nights ago. Houston's kind of been a little bit up and down their last few games. When the Jazz, for the most part, play teams that are better than them, especially on the road, they've got no shot.
Yeah.
They have absolutely no chance, and you saw that against the Knicks. And then when you play against a team like the Thunder, even if they're missing 3 of their 5 best players, they're just going to smoke the Jazz, and they did.
Something interesting from the back-to-back losses, don't get me wrong, the Knicks and the Thunder are miles and miles better than the Jazz are right now. But in both those games, the Knicks shot 56% and 50%, and the Thunder shot 58% and 50%. So that could be attributed to some poor defense from the Jazz, which I'm sure definitely factors into it. But also they're kind of shooting the lights out in these wins. So interesting. One thing I want to say, I was looking at, shout out to Cleaning the Glass. They have a lot of advanced stats about NBA, specific teams, etc. Right now, the Jazz are sitting at 8-15 overall, which puts them on pace for 29 wins on the season.
Yeah.
But Cleaning the Glass projects they finished with 21 wins, which would put them probably one of the 5 worst, maybe 5th, 6th worst records in the NBA. There are a lot of teams
who
are
probably 4.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think you finished with 21 wins. You're probably 3 or 4. But anyways, keep going.
But the thing that's interesting is they have the 3rd highest win differential in the NBA, which basically means difference between games won and expected wins based on your efficiency.
Yeah.
They're the only team in the top 5 with a losing record.
Oh, interesting.
The Lakers and the Detroit Pistons are ahead of them, which basically means their differential isn't very good, but they're still winning games.
Yes, the Lakers have a weirdly small differential that wouldn't imply that they would have the record that they do.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Basically, the Jazz are winning some of these games that you wouldn't think they would be winning based on how quality their offense and defense is performing.
Jazz fans, I know, are very concerned about not holding on to this draft pick. As of today, they do have the 8th worst record in the NBA, so they would have a 35% chance of moving up into the top 4, and I think a 30% chance-ish, I can pull it up really quick, of not holding onto the pick at all.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'd have about a 70% chance of making the draft pick. Let me pull it up just to make sure I'm giving out these numbers right. Jazz would have about a 60% chance of holding onto the pick right now. So 6 out of 10. If nobody else were to pass them in the standings right now with where the Jazz are. Here are the teams that are currently worse than the Jazz. New Orleans has the worst record in the NBA. Washington has the second worst. Indiana has the third worst. Indiana won 4 of 6 suddenly after being truly atrocious. Now, 2 of those wins are over the Chicago Bulls, who are also terrible. But 2 of those teams are, or Indiana might not be as bad as they thought. In fact, they never should have been 0-10 in the first place. The Clippers are 2-8. It's insane that they can't figure it out. I still think they're going to get better. Yeah. I still think they're going to finish with a better record than the Jazz because they don't own their draft pick. And it's important to note also here, once we start talking about Indiana, not Washington and New Orleans, but Indiana, they're 3 wins back from the Jazz. Like, It's not like you've got 15 games up on these teams. It's 3 total wins, and the Jazz still have to play Indiana on the road this year, so that could be a loss for the Jazz and a win for Indy. But yeah, the Clippers are 6-18, and then you have 2 teams at 6-17 in Sacramento and Brooklyn, and Charlotte at 7-17. So the Jazz are 8-15. So again, you're looking at wins. You're not necessarily looking at overall record. The Jazz are sitting at 8 wins. They played fewer games than a couple of these teams, but I don't think it's something Jazz fans are going to have to be worried about. Yeah, you got a 26% chance right now moving up into the top 4, and a 40% chance of losing the pick, which means you have a 60% chance of holding on to it overall, and I think those numbers will improve.
I would assume both Indiana and the Clippers will finish with better records than the Jazz, but you never know. There has been ups and downs, maybe not many ups for the Clippers so far this year, but I still do have faith that the Jazz will be a bottom 6 team in the NBA.
And again, the Clippers, just unless they trade Kawhi or trade James Harden, which could happen, but it's hard to make trades, especially for teams with salary cap issues. They owe their pick to OKC. There's just absolutely no reason for them to be this bad. In fact, the same goes for New Orleans. New Orleans is 3-21. They are a disaster. They've lost 6 in a row. It's the longest in the league. But still, the second half of the season, when everyone else unplugs the system, the Pelicans have no reason to lose games. So even in these games when other teams aren't trying, the Pelicans should have some reason to try.
Yeah.
Again, all that to say that the Jazz are still pretty well positioned to hold on to their pick. I know it's been a big concern for fans. They've probably played their best basketball this season already.
Yeah,
I would imagine.
Okay, let's quickly talk before we come back next Monday. Of course, you guys will have another episode on Thursday. The Jazz will play in Memphis against the Grizzlies on Friday. The Grizzlies are currently 11-13. However, they've won 7 of their last 9 games.
Yeah, they're playing good.
Yeah.
They were pretty clunky to start. There's the issues with Jaw. Jaw's been in and out of the lineup. But they finally got Zach Edey back, and he's playing at a very high level. So they are playing well. Yeah. Memphis is a much better team. Initially, I think when this game got rescheduled, remember these are rescheduled Cup consolation games because the Jazz didn't make the Cup tournament. They have to have 2 more games out of their schedule. The Jazz get Memphis on Friday, the Dallas Mavericks on Monday. Memphis, when you first got that, you thought, oh, that might be a winnable game. Not since then.
Yeah.
So the Jazz probably lose that one. And honestly, the difference with Dallas now, in Dallas, over their last 10 games is 5-5. They have brought Anthony Davis back into the fold. And Cooper Flagg is starting to again play like Cooper Flagg that we saw at Duke. So even though it's in Utah and the Jazz are competitive at home, it's going to be a tough, I'm not sure Dallas is going to be penciled in to win that game, but certainly not the atrocious Dallas team that we saw to start the season.
Yeah, I say only one game, but I say they lose to the Grizzlies on Friday.
Kind of think they lose both.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of think they lose both still. But yeah, it's probably 1-1, but I think there's a real chance they go 0-2.
Yeah.
And then we're right back to where we were talking about with this team. We said, what was this, 2 weeks ago now? We kind of walked through their record up through Christmas. We said, man, we're probably looking at a team that's sitting on 8 wins. Right now, the Jazz are sitting on 8 wins. And if you want to go back to the Jazz's upcoming schedule and what they've got before Christmas, at Memphis, home against Dallas, home against the Lakers, home against the Magic, at Denver, home against the Grizzlies, like there's a real chance the Jazz lose all 5 of those or 6 of those and are still sitting at 8 wins, despite the fact that they've had 2 more games added to the schedule since we had that conversation.
Yeah, I agree. All right, I think that's it for the first half.
Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get your mailbag questions. Stick around. More Jazz Notes coming up next. Welcome back to the Jazz Notes podcast. Ben Anderson, Chandler Holt. All right, kind of a short segment there, but we are entering a break. Like this is a design break by the NBA, and the Jazz will benefit from that. So we will see. The Jazz are. Oh, you know what we haven't talked about? We should, unless we get a mailbag question about it. Walt Clayton is playing very well.
Yes,
he had a really good week. As what we've not talked about this last week, is that Ace, I don't want to say he's hit a rookie wall, but he did not have his best week. The kind of that outburst of scoring 15 to 20 points a game and setting a new career high every time he stepped on the floor. That has stepped back a little bit. He's just like in a bit of a cold shooting streak. Teams are also probably game planning for him a little bit more. On the flip side, Walt Clayton has overtaken Isaiah Collier as the Jazz's backup point guard.
Yep.
Isaiah Collier on Sunday night only played 6 minutes against the Thunder. Bryce Sensabaugh also only played 6 minutes. Taylor Hendricks and Walt Clayton both got in. They both scored 20 points, which career highs for both players, I believe. And they look good. I mean, Taylor just being able to hit threes is such a huge plus because you got to be able to knock down threes. And Walt Clayton, who had not shot the three well, it's not even what he's doing best. He's getting into the paint. He's being really aggressive. He's playing very decisively. I talked to him about it after the game. You can find it on my Twitter page at Ben's Hoops. But he kind of talked about what's been different for him, and he is looking like the guy I kind of talked about a lot that last week or two leading up to the draft. Like, this guy, if you get him somewhere, you should be really happy. And the Jazz ended up getting him at 19 overall. He's starting to look like the player he looked like at Florida that can be really valuable.
So far this month, in December, 4 games last week, like you said, he's averaging 13 points, 5.5 assists, about 3 rebounds, and he's shooting 53, 41, and 88%.
He's like a truly elite shooter.
Yeah.
The fact that he shot so poorly, I tweeted it a lot. It was weird. It was a strange thing that he was shooting that poorly to start the year because he's basically done nothing but knock down shots in his life, and he's showing that is actually the case.
Yeah. He had double digits in 3 of the games. And even the one game where he didn't have, he still had 8 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists. So, yeah, it has been an awesome week for him. And maybe finally coming around. Like, Ace had this coming around moment after his slow start, maybe in like the second month of the season, around when he got inserted into the starting lineup. And now it feels like Walt Clayton is getting there. And honestly, because shooting is such a valuable skill in the NBA, like, even if he stays at 13 and 5 for the rest of the year, I think, like, I don't even know if Isaiah can compete with that. He'll still get minutes, but I think that Walt Clayton is really showing, like, okay, I am point guard too.
And Will Hardy, I asked Will yesterday about, not playing Bryce Sensabaugh more and Isaiah Collier more, and he just said, look, they're nice guys, they're coachable, but they're not executing. Yeah. And at some point, the rubber has to meet the road, essentially, is you have to be held accountable for what you're not doing. And if you're not doing what I'm asking you to do, I can't just keep giving you minutes. And Walt Clayton is doing more of what's being asked of him. And Taylor Hendricks has not played great this season and is still like trying to get back from this injury, but he's doing what's asked of him, and he's trying to play defensively a little bit more, even if he doesn't know exactly where he's supposed to be. And then on top of it, he is making shots, and that's the thing. That's an advantage that he has. So I'll be curious to see what this rotation looks like going forward for the Jazz.
Yeah, same here. Okay, into the mailbag now?
Let's do it.
Over from X, every single Monday, Ben sends out a tweet asking for your mailbag questions about the Utah Jazz. Comes out around 11, and I usually retweet it, so go to either of our X pages to see. Starting from Nadles, who asks, why is Svi, Kyle Anderson, Love in the lineup? Key and Lowry are there to make sure the young players are set up. What is the purpose of holding Ace, Clayton, Taylor back?
I do think you can see that Ace is not ready to have a huge role offensively. I think he is there to be put in very specific spots, and he can function in those, and then the Jazz will pick up other spots for him. Like against Houston last week, the Jazz gave him some opportunities to run pick and roll against Alperen Şengün, and he really abused him. And then teams adjust to it, and they take away what he's doing, and they say, well, okay, what if we don't let you throw that little pocket pass anymore, which you're really good at, and then he turns the ball over a bunch, or, and then he's got to counter that. So I don't totally, I guess, agree with that that question.
Yes.
Or kind of the mindset that, like, it should be all the young guys all the time. Like, they're not ready.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those guys really are not ready. And I will say, I talked to some people at Jazz, like, they're really excited about Svi. And I know that's going to, like, make some Jazz fans rip their heart out. But, like, not Svi long-term starter.
Yeah.
But Svi, eighth man, playing as well as he is right now on a contract that's non-guaranteed. Like, he's totally moved into, like, that Royce O'Neal territory of, like, do you have one of the best contracts in the NBA? Like, I get you're just a role player, but who has a non-guaranteed contract at $3 million a year that plays as well as Svi has? And I do think Jazz fans probably need to hit the refresh button on their understanding of what Svi is. Like, Svi this year is 9 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 47% from the floor, 37% from 3. Like, he's not just out there jacking crazy shots or dribbling 50 times. Like, he's just totally playing within the system. And yeah, he's out there doing a little bit more. He also plays defense. Like, Svi's playing really well, and he's only 28 years old. Like, I don't have any problem with what Svi's doing, nor do I think Svi is taking shots away from anybody else.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, you could just play Bryce there and not play Svi at all, but like Bryce is getting plenty of opportunity. Like Will is having to dial back Bryce's opportunity because he's not doing anything with it. And same with Isaiah. I don't think anybody's missing out on opportunities because of Svi or Kevin Love or Yusuf Nurkic. And by the way, like you saw it against Brooklyn. Look, yeah, the Jazz will lose every game if Nurkic doesn't play. Now, I know they beat Brooklyn, but like they do need that guy to just like run the system. They need that guy to just like have a hub to give the ball to and make passes off of it and set screens and free guys up, because if he doesn't, everyone's going to struggle to find looks. So you do need some of those pieces to create a semblance of a basketball team. Yeah, and like building off of that, I think it really comes down to these veterans. They have experience and they have basketball IQ and they know what NBA offenses and defenses look like. And these rookies don't have that yet. So if you run out all like third year and younger players, there's going to be bad habits that are built, right? I'm not saying that's necessarily what happened with Cody Williams, but you throw Cody Williams into the fire last year and he struggles a lot. Right? And it didn't help him. Yes. It didn't make Cody better. Exactly. It's like perfect practice makes perfect. If you practice bad things, then those things are going to stick with you. Yeah. And it's harder to improve. Not impossible, but yeah, I think if you roll out all these guys, it's just going to be a game full of mistakes. And it's like, are you really learning from that? Yeah. Like you maybe are getting in better shape, but are you learning from that? So I think that's what it comes down to. Yep, I agree. Next up, we have a question from Tucker Brady, who asks, is it tank time yet? If not, at what point in the season do we pull the plug? I feel like we've learned what we need to about Lowry. And then he asks a second question, but we can address that first. I do think the Jazz are probably breaking this season down into segments, and I haven't been told this, but you know, naturally you say like, let's break it down into quarters, and the Jazz are 20 games into the season now, 23 games into the season, so you're past the 25% point, and they're probably like, you know, are you 2 games above 500? Like, are you at 500? Are you 2 games below? Like that might dictate how you approach the next stretch. And they're 7 games below 500. Like, I don't think the Jazz are quote unquote tanking the way they did last year, where the injuries started early. Like basically everybody on the team, other than Walker, who's hurt, and George Niang, who hasn't been cleared yet. Like everyone's played 22 or 21 games. I wonder if you will start to see guys maybe play a little bit less or fewer guys on back-to-backs. You know, Kevin Love included, obviously, who isn't playing back-to-backs right now. They're just, I don't know if they're ever going to do fully tanking like they did last season until maybe really late in the year if they have to hold on to the pick. But I don't know if they're fully committed to every victory as much as they could. Like, they're not going to play Lowry 40 minutes a night just to get a win. Yeah. You know, they're going to develop guys. I mean, look, in Brooklyn, you could have played Kevin Love in that game. Yeah. And look, there could be a million reasons why they didn't play Kevin Love. He isn't playing on the front end of back-to-backs, but they saved him for the Knicks game, and then when they had both Nurkic and Kevin Love. We'll just make Kevin Love play the first game and get the second night off. And now maybe Kevin Love wants to play at Madison Square Garden because maybe it's his last year in the NBA and that was going to be his last chance to do it. I don't know. There are a lot of reasons why you could say it. Or you could just say, hey, I'm your boss. We don't have a center tonight and you're healthy. So you're starting at center tonight. We need the depth. And then in that game, Cody Williams played like 9 minutes and Taylor Hendricks played 9 minutes. And those guys to this point have not proven that they're deserving of being on an NBA floor or ready to be there. So it's like, maybe they're doing it already. You know, I know Lowry might have been vomiting all day long yesterday. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't see him at the game. I will trust that the Jazz said he was sick and he was sick. But like, I don't know. I don't know if we're treating every game like a playoff game mode with the Utah Jazz right now, where guys are going to play through everything. Yes. I don't know. Second question from Tucker says, also, are the Jazz happy with getting the 8th pick, 7, 6, or do they really want a top 5 pick in this draft? I think after, and again, I don't know for sure, this is what I assume. I think after the pain of last year, falling to 5, even though it worked out for you and you got Ace Bailey, I don't think the Jazz are looking at, okay, we want the worst record and a top 5 pick. I would assume they're just like, okay, let us be a bottom 6 team in the NBA and whatever happens, happens. Yes. Yeah, they're not, I mean, to guarantee a top 5 pick, you have to have the worst record in the NBA. That's not in the cards. Unless Keontae and Lowry go knee to knee in the next game and are out for the rest of the season, like that's not in the cards. You've already won too many games for that truly to be possible, considering you have 57 games left or whatever there are to play. So, no, I think you set yourself up to hold on to the pick. You add one more talented piece, and you go off of that. And if you win the lottery, cool, great. That's what they're hoping for. You know, they would love to win the lottery. They're not going to sacrifice everything just to get there. Yes. By the way, that's fine. This draft really is extremely good. It's a very good draft. Next up from Dan, USU the Red Blue. How much of a talent gap is there between the Jazz and playoff teams, not play-in, but top 6 teams in the West that get a first-round bye?
let me look at the Western Conference standings right now. The top 6 teams right now is OKC, the Lakers, Denver, Houston, San Antonio, and Minnesota.
So enormous.
Yeah.
There's a huge gap,
Yes.
truthfully. But to again go back to this model of like, well, how do you catch up to those teams? You just go out and you add some veterans. Like, the Jazz aren't going to accidentally stumble into one of those spots this year. But who's the number 7 team in the West right now?
Phoenix.
Okay. So, like, Phoenix was a disaster last year, a true disaster. And what was their big aggressive move this offseason? They traded away their superstar, arguably their best player, probably not arguably, their best player in Kevin Durant, to get role players to come back and be role players. And Jalen Green's a little bit better than a role player, but Dylan Brooks is the rolliest of role players there is in the NBA. And they traded a mid-level first-round pick for Mark Williams and got a starting center, and all of a sudden they were fine.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they're competitive. They're in the play-in. And I know that's not what you asked. You said specifically not the play-in. You said top 6, but, like, Golden State's not that good this year, and the Grizzlies aren't that good this year, and Portland's not that good this year, and they're all in the play-in. So, like, how far are the Jazz? They're a good summer away. And not even a good summer. Like, I should say a purposeful summer. Like, if their design is this summer to go out and get players to make the play-in next year, I think the Jazz are in the play-in next year.
Golden State is closer to the Jazz than they are to Denver, the 3 seed.
Yeah. So if next year Walker comes back, and I don't know, we'll see if Walker comes back, and Lowry's back, and Keontae builds on this year, and Ace Bailey comes back for year 2, and the Jazz say everyone else is fighting for a spot versus whatever veterans they sign to go in and fill that 5th spot, and if any of the young players are still good enough to hang around, versus, you know, I don't know, insert random role player that's like a good role player in the NBA, a la Dylan Brooks, and the Jazz are fine.
Yeah.
The Jazz are right back in this conversation. They're trying to win every night.
I would say the biggest difference is the defense. The Jazz have the 3rd worst defense, only better than the Nets and the Wizards right now.
Yeah.
So
it's a problem.
Yeah.
They've got to figure out how to play defensively, and that's maybe a cultural issue. But that, again, is based on who the Jazz have brought in.
Yes.
The Jazz didn't draft Bryce Sensabaugh because he was a great defensive player, or Keontae George because he was a great defensive player, or Kyle Filipowski because he was a great defensive player. Like, that's not what they did. That's not what those guys are. Taylor getting hurt has really hurt the Jazz's defense because he was supposed to be one of those players, and Ace will be one of those players, but he's 20 games into his career. He doesn't know how to do it yet. And they don't have a center. Like, Yusuf Nurkic is not a defensive player in the slightest, and his backup right now is Kevin Love or Kyle Filipowski. Like, the Jazz front court is so bad defensively, it's crazy. But yeah, that's the problem when Walker gets hurt. And Walker's only a pretty good defender, not like an elite defensive center a la Rudy Gobert.
Next up from Quinn. I know you can't divulge to us the particulars on these, but have you heard behind the scenes of any potential trades involving the Jazz that might be more than just rumors? If so, are there any that might involve the Jazz trading to add talent, i.e. Trey Murphy, Zion Ja, etc.?
I've heard the Indiana Pacers have inquired about Walker Kessler for a long time.
Okay.
A lot.
Yeah.
That's kind of going back to the summer, going back. You know, they lost Miles Turner. It was a guy even before the injury, and I've maybe even heard after the injury. They have still inquired about Walker Kessler. So that's the one thing I have heard somewhat consistently and talked to some other people about. No one with the Jazz. Let me say that. Not people with the Jazz, but other people who may have very similar jobs to me who have heard similar things.
Okay.
So,
yeah. I mean, makes sense for them.
And we've heard them independently.
Okay.
So that's generally a pretty good sign. Now, that doesn't mean anything. I bet you a lot of the Lakers we know had interest in Walker, too. Like,
for 7 years.
Yeah, teams are interested in Walker Kessler. But that's just kind of like a random team I have heard that has shown interest in Walker. Yeah. I don't know what it would mean. I don't know what it would look like. I don't have any idea. If they still wanted him this year after the injury, unless they're giving up their lottery pick, which doesn't make sense to trade for a center who's not going to come in and help you win this year, and giving up your lottery pick in a year where you might have really good lottery odds or you might get a difference maker, like, that doesn't make total sense to me. But so along those lines, you're sending back somebody who matches Walker's salary. Yeah. And if you want to go down and look at, Jarris Walker or Ben Mathurin or whoever these guys are that aren't playing a ton right now for Indiana, maybe you could make something like that work. But all I have heard is that the Pacers have been interested in Walker for a long time.
Yeah.
So,
and
at least going back to the summer. I don't know if that's a long time, but since Miles Turner left.
Yeah. And for that trade, he says, Jazz adding talent. Since Walker's out this year, technically you're adding talent, but like the trade wouldn't be Tyrese or Pascal. Walker would be added to those two. So I don't think it's really debatable if you're adding talent.
Yeah.
So
right.
Next up from Jazz Time Jones asks, outside the top 3 in the 26 draft, who would be the best fit with the Jazz?
Caleb Wilson.
Yeah.
Because he's the best player.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm going to get in trouble here because of where we are, but, like, I think there's going to be some debates if he's the third best player or second best player in the draft. At the end of it. Like, he's just insane. He's as big as AJ DeBonsa is. He was not this, AJ was the number 1 recruit. It's hard to lose your number 1 recruiting ranking, even in, like, NBA teams' eyes. Like, even once they see you on the court. Like, no, it happens, Isaiah Collier was drafted 29th overall. He was the number 1 overall recruit. But Caleb Wilson right now at North Carolina is, I think, 2 inches taller than AJ DeBonsa, at least an inch taller. He's averaging 19 and 10. Now, his problem is he shoots 18% from 3. Yeah. And AJ shoots 3s, and that's going to keep AJ over him. But, like, you will hear some debate about, like, well, he also averages 14 rebounds a game or whatever. I mean, it's 10 right now.
Yes.
But you'll hear those conversations. It certainly has not been – nothing's been sorted out other than early on, Darren Peterson had jumped up to kind of the obvious number 1 pick, and Darren's been hurt, even though he came back last night, I think. And in that time, Cam Boozer kind of elevated to the consensus number 1 overall pick, and he struggled in the first half against Michigan State, and then he had 14 points in the second half, and finished with 16 and 15 and 5 assists. Like, it's a really good draft. So, but I would say Caleb Wilson's probably the next. But we'll see what Nate Ament does over the second half of the season, and lots of good players here.
And the thing is, I would agree that it could be a good fit because you look at the Jazz roster, and like, drafting players who can't shoot is not a good idea. I'm not vouching for that, but like, you already do have Keontae George, Lowry Markkanen, Kyle Filipowski, Bryce Sensabaugh, like all these guys who are good shooters. So I agree with you there. Next up from Jesse says, I used to have first-class tickets on the trade for Jarris Walker / Cam Whitmore trains. What draft prospects have you been wrong about? Guys you thought were going to be solid but wound up disappointing, or vice versa, guys you thought would wash out but carved out NBA roles?
I thought Cody was going to be a little more ready. But he seems to be just kind of more rattled. Yeah. But physically, he's certainly not there either. So many players, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That you just kind of think are going to be good. I was never on the Cam Whitmore train, so I will celebrate that. I'll pat myself on the back for that. And like, the funny thing was, like, he was terrible in his workouts. He didn't play hard, and now he got benched last night by the Wizards because he's not playing hard. It's like, believe sometimes what people show you, because that's who they are.
Mind you, like you have said, only 20 games into their NBA career, but Jeremiah Fierce has been really good so far.
He's been really good. I was wrong about Jeremiah Fierce.
Yeah, and both of us were low on him.
What he showed at Oklahoma, right?
Yeah.
He's just been awesome.
Yeah.
No, I definitely miss on guys for sure. I mean, everyone does. It's the draft.
I was about to say, you're a big draft guy. You love the offseason and that part of it, and you've been doing it for almost a decade. At a decade, somewhere around there at this point. So a lot of prospects to talk about.
I mean, off the top of your head, it's a tale of 2 seasons for me. Like, once the draft ends, I just go right back into the Jazz full time. And then once that ends, like, I'll forget players on the Jazz because I go full draft all the time.
Yeah.
And then once they don't end up in Utah, like, some of them I lose sight of, and I kind of forget that they're going to be anybody.
Yeah.
Some guards probably. There's some guards I've liked, but also talking about the draft at the level I have recently, like buying in as much as I have, like, I still feel like, am I ready to write Cody Williams off? Like, I'm just not. It's 2 years into his career. Like, there are guys who bounce back in year 3 or year 4 who end up being really good players. Dante Exum, ended up being a really good player. Or not really good, but like, was a disaster. Everyone thought he was going to be Kobe. He turned into a disaster, and then he ended up kind of playing an okay role.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll see.
I believe the last question from Alex Atwood says, what do you think of Will Hardy's video someone took from behind the bench about playing harder against OKC last night?
So if you missed it, he was fiery. I get why fans care. You don't see that part of Will. They don't show that on the broadcast. If you go to a game, he yells at his team every timeout. It's been more aggressive this year, I think, than in years past, but this is not the first time Will has said this to his team, which was play harder, get in a stance. I'm sick of telling you to do this every game. I have heard Will behind the scenes, not to me directly, but like, I have heard Will yell behind the scenes. Like, I know who Will Hardy is. Like, I don't know who he is, but like, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
But also, that's 27 out of the 30 coaches in the NBA, I'm sure. Like, there are just some guys who are like, well, my thing is I'm a nice guy. Like, I don't yell, and that's my whole identity. But like, I guarantee you Mark Daigneault does that to his players.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, Doc Rivers does that to his players. Stan Van Gundy did that to his players. Ty Lue said it about Chris Paul, like, publicly, like, I just don't think anything he said there was like, look, I get it's like weird, But like I grew up in Utah. Jerry Sloan said that to like everybody. That's how Jerry Sloan talked to everyone. Like that's just what coaching looks like in college, in the NBA, in a lot of high schools. I mean, I don't know. Did your coach ever yell at you when you played high school?
Like high school basketball, which means nothing. Like,
nothing, right? Zero consequence if you guys play well or not.
And my coach wasn't even one of those guys who's like, oh, I could be a college coach one day. He's just a guy, you know?
So yeah, my thoughts on it, truly nothing other than I laughed at it when I saw it, because I've heard Will yell before. I've heard Will yell about things that aren't related to his players before, where he uses somewhat similar language. So it was not that crazy.
That like the negative response to that video was genuinely baffling to me. Like, do you think NBA players or just anyone will respond to, you guys are trying your best. Like we got this, guys. Just go back.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's like you're not going to get through to anyone.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3 team. Yeah, is not going to do it.
Yeah. So.
And he's frustrated. I do think Will's really frustrated right now. I do think there is some fear, and I'm talking for Will here. I shouldn't. I would understand why there would be fear that after tanking for 3 straight seasons that you've let go of the rope too far, and the only way to fix it is by overcorrecting the other direction. Mm-hmm. Now, where they might push back is saying, what do you mean overcorrecting? I'm coaching. This is not overcorrection. This is coaching. This is what coaching looks like. Mm-hmm. This is what talking to multi-millionaires. Like, how are you going to get Lauri Markkanen to respond to you? Lauri makes $40 million a year. If you made $40 million, would you listen to anything anybody said? Truthfully.
Yeah.
Would you, if you were the best in the world at something you do, or one of the 400 best in the world, and everyone your entire life has told you yes, and then you're paid that way, millions and millions of dollars, why would you listen to anybody unless you were afraid of that person? Yeah. And you have to have a little bit of that when you're going to be a coach. They have to be a little bit afraid of you. They have to understand that you have more authority than they do, and sometimes you have to use it by using coarse language.
Yeah. And on the other side of that, like on the opposite of being afraid, it's a dual-edged sword, because these teams are also like they are family, like they are close. They spend
they are all so close.
Yeah, they're like 9 months of the year together at the least, if not more than that, right? So it's like, what are you going to think as a player if your coach isn't yelling at you? Like, you're like, oh, he doesn't care. Like, he's getting his money and he's here, you know? But it's like, oh, this guy cares. He wants me to do my best.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's some of that too.
Yep. So, no question about it. And that is part of it. And I will tell you, Will's players do like him.
Yes.
You know, the Jazz players, and probably not all the time, and probably vice versa, not all the time. Yeah. But, like, it is a mutual respect there. And I don't think Will is just like yelling at random dudes. Also, I don't think he's like, and maybe he does behind the scenes. Honestly, I don't know. But like, if he knows a guy can't handle it, Will's not going to go break a person's spirit by yelling at them.
He's not Kobe Bryant.
Will didn't yell at me that way. I wouldn't respond well to that because I don't make millions of dollars. You know, like no one's told me yes my whole life. Will doesn't need to come crush me just to ruin my day. Could he? I guess we work in a similar spot. I don't think he has the authority to. I mean, he has the authority. He can do whatever he wants. I don't have to respond to it. Yeah. But I don't think he's like going out of his way to be a bully and hurt somebody's feelings. Like I've asked dumb questions and he's never responded like that to me. So it was a nice one.
Yeah. Anyways, we actually did get one more late question from Brendan, who said, did the Jazz deliberately allow their smoke machine to malfunction to try to lose by forfeit instead of having to play?
Unfortunately, no.
No.
I think they would have loved that.
Yeah.
But if you missed it, go check out our Instagram page. And actually, as soon as we wrap this, which is now, I'm going to put it up on our YouTube and our TikTok pages, so you will find them there as well. If you didn't see the smoke machine going off while the Thunder were doing a layup line against the Utah Jazz, and not supposed to be a layup line. It was in the game. Yeah. It was really funny.
It was funny.
It was a nice little bit of comic relief in a game where the Jazz were getting blown out. All right. Find us on social media at Ben's Hoops, at Holt Sports. DJ and I will be back on Thursday. Chandler and I will be back with you on Monday, recapping the one game that was, and of course any news and notes, and we'll see what that looks like. Stick around. Jazz Notes coming up later this week.